perspective. Now, before we get started, obviously we have a couple announcements. What I want you to do is take a look at this, clip right there. As you can see, there's a picture of a snapshot of my Instagram right there. You can see that it's Jessica Alba and me, and she did a video when it came to fragrance. And the video kind of went viral. It was just my my interpretation of what she was saying. She said a very cool statement and things like that, with just talking about fragrance and the toxicity of it that way, which I totally agree with. And that's why we started a new segment on our videos. It basically goes back to like our books. I agree or I disagree. So therefore, on this video, I agreed with Jessica Alba, or the fact that fragrances are used a lot in products, and they studied thousands of products and showed that some of the things can be endocrine disruptors. They can affect the skin, they can affect the respiratory, they can affect all these things, and it's pretty amazing. So, it's quite crazy when you look into the research of it that way. So she said, listen, one of the most toxic things that we do have is that. So that being said, what I want you guys to understand is if you would have a video that you would like me to see if I agree with, send it to me, because I will go over it in great detail and let you know if I agree, and then have some commentary after it. So go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to Instagram, go to TikTok, all those, and you can see the new standard videos. We still have the Hey Docs, because those are highly requested, and we get millions of views on those. This video with Alba went kind of viral, and so it's kind of cool for us to see that and notice the things that went on. So definitely put the video, think if I will agree with it or disagree with it. Now, the one thing is this, I love the ones I agree with, because I just go in a little bit more detail and put it up there to the point where people shared it so many times, and it was fantastic. It went a little viral. It's a new format, so definitely join on with us. Now, that being said, as you can see right here, the reason why it's so important, you can see that we have the challenges. And if you look at, we have the no sugar in January, and April we have the detox one. Now, what that really is this. There's really nothing more than saying, just like that Jessica Alba video, saying, okay, listen, we want to remove things that could be an irritation to your body. And it could be, scents that you have there. It could be air fresheners. It could be foods. It could be anything that you have a cleaning product or a cosmetic product that could be toxic for your system. Just like I said, there was 3 fragrances that created a lot of endocrine disruption that are in household products, and they're listed on that video there. I put the research showing it that way. But that's the whole idea of the detox challenge. It's going to say, what can we do over the course of that month to remove all those things? And as you know, in July, we always have our protein challenge we got done with. And coming up here in October, we have our sleep challenge coming up, which I'm so excited about, which I still think is going to be one of the most important ones, because I can honestly tell you, with the exception of eating too much sugar, I think I had to constantly teach women about they need to get to bed earlier. They need so much more sleep. And even though women like to sleep, it's just that their daily habits and being moms and a lot of stuff on their plate, sometimes it's hard for them to get the sleep that they need. But I want to go over how important it is, especially for the female population, to make sure that they're getting enough sleep. So that being said, we have our book launch. We are sold out, but please understand, as you can see from scratch right here, sold out does not mean you can't still order them. They're going to be coming in very quickly, and your orders will go out. But the nice thing about the From Scratch book, that way you can see it's a bestseller. It already did quite amazing. We sold out so quickly, just like we did with the I Still Disagree books, but they'll be on the shelves here again. And also remember, you can purchase them at any Wellness Way office across the country, because it's been amazing. It was kind of funny because some of the offices are like, they couldn't even get their books because they sold out so quickly. So very soon we'll have all the offices stocked with them. It's going to be quite awesome. The From Scratch from Dr. Alex and Christy did such an amazing job. We've got some great reviews already. Actually, we've already got probably hundreds of reviews already, that just the amazing recipes that they have and everything they do. So once again, definitely look into that. Now, as always, we do our giveaways. As you can see right here, $1,000 giveaways every single Saturday. And we will continue to do this all the way to our Christmas season. But our Christmas season is going to be crazy on giveaways. But what we're going to do is this. We're going to turn it over to our 3 wonderful people over here. The future, Dr. Destiny, always Aaron Walton, and Dr. Lucas over here in Green Bay area.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right. Where are we today, Destiny?
I am going to be on Facebook, so looking forward to interacting with all of you guys on there.
Yeah, wonderful. And of course, I'm on ADP. Super excited to be there. And Dr. Lucas, where are we giving away today?
Well, we will be doing, let me double check, immune glandular. Given today's topic, this is going to be a pretty major one for a lot of y'all.
Absolutely. So you know the drill. Interact with us, and we'll be here making friends and keeping the conversation going. But my favorite part, we have an Academy winner. Shannon Bali has been actually a patient of our own Nicole Selesky here. Ooh, I don't think I'm supposed to. Okay, so she watches ADP often and is excited to help those around her. So Shannon, welcome to the Wellness Way Academy family. We're so excited to have you.
And back to our regular scheduled audience. So once again, congratulations to our winner. So you guys know we do an Academy winner every single week. Once again, there's videos out about what the Academy is, or if you have any questions, go to thewellnesswayacademy.com and you can understand all about it. So once again, interact with Dr. Destiny, Dr. Lucas, and Aaron through the show on all the platforms. Once again, we have a new system. That's why Facebook, I know we're here today. I got you on here on my phone. Everybody doesn't know I have my phone right here. We're going live on Facebook so you guys can see it. But interact with us. I think Dr. Jacqueline is on running Facebook today, but just know that as we do our live here today, we're going to be covering things. And we have a cool new system going on, more neat stuff, and as our studios get better and better with our wonderful lead people that we do have. Now, that being said, I want you guys to understand that we have our wonderful newsletter that comes out every single weekend. So you can see right here, obviously all you have to do is go to the website, and you can be able to scroll down all the way down for the factors of, Kyle, come back to us here and stuff like that. So the factors of our newsletter, you get to scroll down to the bottom and actually click on, there we go. We can see it going all the way down to the bottom, and we'll be able to take over and see right there. You can see the wonderful, type in your email. You have a wonderful way of doing it, and you get our newsletter that comes up every single week. But then also, as you know, after this one, the most important part on our website is go to top right and click our website where Find a Clinic is up there. And you can type in Find a Clinic and you see all of our wonderful offices up there. And they're all over the place. And it's kind of nice. We have more people, lo and behold, that come out every single month. So it's kind of exciting and wonderful that we do have. So join us at our clinics, join us at our newsletter. And what we can do is see all the things that happen here at The Wellness Way and the website, thewellnessway.com. We have so many free videos on there. Plus, we have our TW Plus, where you get even more behind-the-scenes stuff. Like yesterday, it's not a joke, me and Megan Redshaw, we shot In the Red, and we literally had nothing planned but except for one thing. We want to talk about our views on abortion and how it affects healthcare, how it affects politics, and how it affects the economy. So that is behind on the Unplugged session on In the Red when it comes to our thing. So that's behind our TW Plus. So that being said, guys, what we're going to do today is we're going to get right into our topic. So let's get into our perspective. Keep it going. And today is going to be an interesting topic because I can honestly tell you, in clinical practice, we deal with this all the time, but to teach you guys is a whole nother realm. Like I said, Saturday shows are not meant for like interviews. That will be behind on TW Plus and everything. So you can see the interviews of people that we have in all different areas of healthcare, politics, even religion that way. It's kind of cool because it all relates to the good mental and physical aspect that happen to our health. But today, as you can see here, we're going to talk about, here we go, MCAS, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, and histamine, because that's the major component of it. Now, the one thing about it is when you see these things that are going on, you want to see the fact that, okay, listen, what's going on? Because it's actually a diagnosis, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. And I'm just going to set something out first, and then I always have to prove it to you later. I think it's something that has to be kind of looked at very differently. Obviously, that's why we're doing it on a different perspective, because I think the topic itself is very misleading. I think that people are always trying to grab onto something that they have. It's quite interesting. As you guys know, I study a lot of herbs, been a part of my career for 30 years, everything like that. And if you just even look at the history of even Chinese medicine, and you kind of see the things, how they did things, which actually I think is pretty cool for a lot of the thousands of years of history that we have recorded, is they never gave you like an end stage problem. Now I want you to think about this. They said, your body's too hot, it's too cold, it's too wet. And they'd say, okay, if your body's too hot, eat cooling foods. If your body's too cool, eat heating foods. If your body's too wet, then use more dry thing. And it was kind of cool how it worked, because if you think about this, your body is trying to adapt to what's happening. For example, this morning I went outside. Now, granted, it's summer, but it's actually kind of nice. I think it was like 58 degrees this morning when I got here early this morning, and decent weather. You know what I'm saying? And I know it sounds funny. I may look like I'm in a suit jacket, but I actually have shorts on. No one sees everything below, so it's kind of funny. I could literally do this pantsless and no one would know. Okay. Well, the team over there would know. But the idea is this. But here, when it comes down to it, just let's say when it gets in January here in Wisconsin, it's going to be 30 below at 5 a.m. All right. And if I was dressed in these shorts and the t-shirt like I walked in with, okay, I want you to understand that my body has to adapt. It's going to say, okay, listen, that adaptation is going to go, oh my goodness, you dummy, my body's talking to myself right now, telling my conscious, hey, you dummy, it's very cold. I need to pull the blood away from your fingers, your toes, your legs. I need to put it more towards the core to protect your vital organs. There's just a natural adaptation as things come around. So that's why when everything ends up like a disease is almost like an end stage of a long-term adaptation. So therefore, if you think of it this way, if you look at how the body changes when there's too much glucose in the system for too long a time, what it starts doing, it starts, I always think of this way. Remember when you were kids and, no joke, we used to go to the dime store, that's what it's called, and you used to get like a whole bunch of candy and stuff like that, and you could buy candy for pennies, literally, okay? Not dating myself, I'm only 50 years old, but here's the point. And all of a sudden, you'd stick your hand in the candy, and the funny thing was this, do you remember how sticky your fingers were? Okay, I want you to think about that. That's what happens inside your blood system, and it's called glycation, what it does to your proteins. And that's why you see the hemoglobin A1C, which is part of your red blood cells, they get very sticky, you know what I'm saying? And then things coagulate, and that's not good. It can cause stroke and cause a lot of other things that way. But the idea is this, that's an end stage of your body trying to adapt to everything you've been doing to it so it can survive. So when you look at things like Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, I'm like, it's kind of misleading. It's not a condition, it's an adaptation, okay? And so therefore I know there's a diagnosis for it. No, doc, I suffer from it. I'm not saying you don't suffer from it, but I have to get you in a different perspective of it to understand it, because the way they talk about it, it looks like it's a disease that your body just did something with. So let's take a look. Here we go. And so just pull up some medical reference. Let's take a look at this here. It's called Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. We pull up Cleveland Clinic, one of the most prominent hospital systems in the U.S., which I have a very good, I like the things that they put out that way. I don't agree with all the stuff that way, but you can see from this right here. Let's talk about it. Mast Cell Activation Syndrome is a condition that causes intense episodes of swelling, shortness of breath, hives, diarrhea, vomiting, and other symptoms. In severe cases, it may be life-threatening anaphylaxis. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that, guys. But let's look at the next sentence. And you see they didn't highlight it. I didn't highlight it. This is on their website. It's caused by mast cells. Now, what's that word right there? Come on, take a look. Mistakenly alerting your immune system that there's something harmful in your body. Now, that's the thing I have a problem with medicine. That's why I have a problem with functional medicine. That's why I have a problem, what's even taught at a lot of chiropractic schools, is mistakenly. If you understand the mast cell, which we talked about, mast cell activation releases a lot of histamine, the mast cell just doesn't do it by itself. So how can that cell that can only respond to something make a mistake? Honestly, this is something and remember, number one, as you guys know, nutrition and immunology is my background before I went to chiropractic school, vice versa, my postgraduate education and stuff like that. I continued that. That's why I take a lot of immunology courses and classes at awesome schools, just because I love immunology, I love nutrition, I love herbology, everything like that. So, and the one thing is this, I could be sitting in a class and the professor, and I did this during the time, I actually have physical evidence of it that way, because I like to write emails to our professors so they get a response, and I save all the responses. And I ask them when they talk about this, they talk about an autoimmune, okay? And a professor will just say, hey, the body made a mistake. I'm like, whoa, hold the phone. And I would literally send them a message saying, okay, what is the response that made a mistake was, and how did it respond to the situation in the first place? For example, as you can see here again, let me read it, Kyle put up for a second. It caused by mast cell mistakenly alerting your immune system that there's something harmful in your body. Okay, so therefore, how does it make a mistake? What did it do? it doesn't release it. If you look at the mast cell itself, it actually has receptors that find things that don't belong there, and then there is a release of what? Of histamine. It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. The mistake may be the fact that you put something that triggers the mast cell. The mistake may be the fact that you have a constant infection, and it's not really a mistake. I say the response. So I want to, instead of them using mistakenly, I want to say response. The response happening due to the fact that you could just have normal flora that overgrew, and now there needs to be a histamine response to adapt. And if you didn't, that would be a very bad day. Let me go back to Wisconsin in January. If I walk in there with this t-shirt and my shorts on, and all of a sudden I'm outside and I stay out there and I choose to stay out there for a long period of time, could I eventually lose my fingers and toes? People say yes, of course I could. Now, was that dumb or smart of your body? I want you to really think about that. Was it dumb or smart of your body? Well, it's very smart. Because why? I'd rather lose some digits than my cardiovascular system or my digestive system. It's going to protect the vital, which is life-sustaining organs that we cannot get rid of. So the idea is this, it's not a mistake. It's saying, hey, listen, you're mistakenly staying out in the cold for way too long, and now I have to pick up pieces and adapt to what's going on, and you're wrong. It doesn't mean there can be not a negative response happening. It's just that when you consistently, mistakenly stay outside for too long, I don't want to die. Okay, meaning the fact that it's the body talking to itself, so it's going to do everything it can to adapt. All right, but let's look at some of the symptoms of this kind of adaptation. Now, as you can see here, what are the symptoms? The release of too many mast cell mediators can impact almost every part of your body. The primary effect areas, typically the skin, we can see that topically, nervous system, that's a neurotransmitter we'll talk about a little bit, heart and GI system. The number of mediators released can cause the range from mild to life-threatening. So let's happens. If it's a skin, it happens. You can see right here, itching, flushing, hives, sweating, swelling, rash. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh my goodness, I kind of have this kind of response. Yes, you kind of have some of this response due to the fact those are very common allergy symptoms. See, they relate a lot of mast cell activation syndrome with allergies. Well, of course, because people do not realize this. A lot of the mast cells are around blood vessels, and they're also around connective tissue. So therefore, let me give you a simple example. Do you know that if you twist your ankle, you're going to have kind of a mast cell activation syndrome? Because why? Let's say you twist your ankle, you're going to damage it, you're going to see flushing, you're going to see swelling, you're going to see sweating, you're going to see the changes in your skin being red. What has happened? Well, the minute that connective tissue is damaged, or any area, tissue, muscles, or anything are damaged, there's proteins released, and the mast cell says, oh my goodness, I want to create some blood flow. So the mast cell stimulates dilation of the blood vessels, and that's why everything gets red. So for example, let's say that you breathe in an allergen. That protein comes in, the mast cell says, oh my goodness, there's something that's trying to get in here that doesn't belong here. Let's bring other blood vessels, blood, tissue, and everything to that area, so there is a reaction. So therefore, you kind of activated your mast cell by that trigger of the foreign thing that happened. But even you can do it yourself without having something foreign come in. Because all of a sudden, if you do have damage to connective tissue or other areas of the body, your body's going to adapt and say, listen, I recognize that there's protein damage here, which triggers the mast cell, which now you want to create vasodilation. See, so some of these symptoms, once again, they feel pretty badly, but it's actually an adaptive response. So let's take a look more. Eyes. Irritation, itching, watering. Nose, itching, running. Mouth, throat, all same symptoms. Lung, wheezing, heart, low blood pressure, rapid heart rate. Stomach, cramping, nervous system, headache, confusion, fatigue. The one thing that a lot of people do not know is that histamine is also a neurotransmitter. Because once again, a lot of people look at histamine as something negative because you've been taught about so many drugs called antihistamines. But you know what's really funny? The mast cell has to have something that triggers it in order to make sure that there's a release of histamine that comes about from it that way, which I totally understand because they have receptors, and those receptors are no different than a lock and key. If you have a key, which is a trigger, and the receptor, which is a lock on the mast cell, it now has to respond, that's what it's genetically programmed to do, to actually create the vasodilation to open up those blood vessels, to get inflammation down there. See, people want to kind of demonize mast cell activation syndrome as like it's something bad. Now, they're wrong. I understand that it can turn bad because it can be such a response that there is an anaphylactic response, but you understand that's coming from being triggered from something from the outside. Now the outside can be some allergen or some infection or some dander or anything that comes in, or it can be internal where there could be damage to the body, which now there's a lot of protein responses that now trigger the mast cell to release it that way. So let's take a look and let's see some of those functions. Mast cells are part of the immune system. Yes, they're there for a reason. Their usual function is to help your body protect from invading germs, pathogens, parasites, viruses, and other harmful substances. I love that. That's so true. They sit in your tissues and they recognize something that they think is harmful. Now, hold the phone. Let's stop there, okay? I want you to think about this. Their job is not to recognize something harmful, okay? Their job is they have a receptor that if something binds to that receptor, it now responds to it that way. Mast cell doesn't walk around your body going, hey man, you don't look good. I'm gonna release out histamine and get you out of here. No, there's little receptors like a lock and key, like I said it again. And what it does, if that is a harmful substance or something that needs to be removed or vasodilated, what happens is it's going to attach to the mast cell on its receptor, because it's not like a mast cell is walking around going, like you, don't like you, let's get him out of here. See, I mean, it's funny when the way they language these things, it's like they actually think it has, like a memory cell to actually, no, it has a receptor. Okay, let's go on. They release histamine and other chemical, and Kyle, put up the slide. There we go. They release histamine and other chemicals to activate your immune system and to try to flush out the intruder. 100% agree with that. Sometimes they react to things they shouldn't. Well, that we're going to have a little debate on, which is why you get allergies. But allergies usually only make your eyes itch or your nose run or give you mild symptoms. Mast cell activation causes more serious symptoms without specific triggers. Well, and that's where the debate comes, because mast cells just do not release histamine by itself. It doesn't. You can ask, I've asked everyone, my immunology professors, I've asked PhD immunologists, I've asked all these people I've taken my courses from and through my undergraduate to my graduate degree to my postgraduate degree, to understand that when you look at the immune system and what it does, the immune system doesn't go rogue by itself. It does not. There can be constant triggers that don't go away. For example, you could be injected with substances that are very difficult to remove from your body. So therefore, your immune system is always responding to something that can't be removed. You can actually have a yeast infection. That's why if you ever notice, people that have small and large intestinal problems have a lot of mast cell activation syndrome. Why? Because it's very common to have overgrowth. It's very common to have microbial imbalances, and now the immune system has to get there and do things, and that's why you see a lot of bloating. That's why you see a lot of redness. That's why you feel a lot of gas and things that do happen. And it feels like, that's why people say, oh, doc, I eat and it looks like I have a food baby. Well, of course, because just like you talked about, those blood vessels get dilated when it's triggered, and therefore there's now swelling. I always laugh after people are done eating. Like, you ever go to the holidays and your uncle's sitting there and all of a sudden he's like, oh, my belly's sticking out, I'm full. Mr. Uncle, did you eat 22 feet of food? Because all those intestines that are wound in there, to make those things expand, you'd have to eat 22 feet of food, if not more, and to get there. No, what happens is you've activated some histamine response, and now there's vasodilation, and all those blood vessels start to get larger, just like my finger. If my finger swells, it gets bigger, and it's the same thing that does happen. Now, it's quite crazy, because as I wanted to pull up stuff for you, because instead of like taking copies of my textbooks, what I want to do is this. I actually found the best definition that relates to my textbooks compared to like when you type in histamine on Google or DuckDuckGo. And the reason why is they've kind of demonized histamine. But let me tell you this again. Histamine is also a neurotransmitter. It has major benefits neurologically and other parts. And it also has benefits of blood circulation. So that's why you can't demonize a normal thing that exists in our body. So therefore, I'm going to go through the definition of it that way, because Wikipedia had the best response to it, because otherwise I had to take my textbooks, put it on the copier, scan it in, but let's go through it and let's take a look at it here. Histamine is an organic nitrous compound involved in local immune responses, communications, 100% agree, as well as regulating physiological functions in the gut and acting as neurotransmitter for the brain, spinal cord, and uterus. 100% agree, okay? Discovered in 1910, histamine Has been considered a local hormone, yes, because it's produced without involving the classic endocrine glands, 100% agree. However, in recent years, histamine has been recognized as a central neurotransmitter, yes. Histamine is involved in the inflammatory response, yes, and has a central role as a mediator of itching. As part of an immune response to foreign pathogens, yes, there's the key, foreign pathogens. Histamine is produced by basophil and by mast cells found nearby connective tissue. Histamine increases the permeability of capillaries to white blood cells and some proteins to allow them to engage pathogens in the affected tissues. It consists of imidazole ring attached to an ethyl chain. Under physiological conditions, the amino group and the side chain is pronated. Now, what I want you to understand is this. When you just define histamine, it doesn't show anything negative. See, if you ever trying to look up histamine in just general searches, it talks about, once again, all the negative effects it does and things like that. No, and how many times did you see just in the basic definition of it, it talks about removing foreign pathogens. Foreign pathogens. Now, once again, damaged tissue within inside your ankle, if you twist it, is a foreign pathogen. It's not productive for the body, so the body is going to get rid of it. But see, that's why when you look at the fact of what goes on with histamine, we can't demonize it because also, as they've now recognized over the last years, in the last 20, 25 years, that it's a neurotransmitter. There is neurological effects that happen within the brain in a very positive way with it. So all this response to demonize histamine, once again, Mast Cell Activation Syndrome is once again adaptation to some foreign pathogen internally also. So you have foreign, which doesn't belong there, may come from the outside, but even if there's tissues within you. Now, for example, if you have, let's say, a cup of candida in your intestine, and it's supposed to be no higher than that, and you have 5 cups, that's actually foreign. Because why? It's not a normal microbial balance. That's why people that have SIBO have a lot of mast cell activation syndrome. They seem to eat anything and bloat just because, once again, there's such a massive overgrowth and more fermentation when they do eat. Now, once again, what we can do is actually measure some of these. So as you can see here, here's just a child that was going through a thing. I think this child was 12 years old. And this is one of the old patients that way. And they were having every time they eat and everything like that. And if you take a look, they had high levels of histamine, it's about the middle of the thing. This is just a peripheral neurotransmitter test. And once again, it measures the amount of protein hormone that was within your urine to see if they're high levels. And you can see there's some highs and some lows and some normal. And we noticed that there was an elevated response. Now, it's quite interesting. When you look at histamine, what you talked about, there's receptors all over for it. And there's type 1, 2, 3, and 4. A lot of people do not know that. So therefore, what they do, they have created antihistamines. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to bind on to the receptors of the mast cell or basophil. And therefore, what it's trying to do is to inhibit its release. Now, obviously, we know there's a lot of negative side effects to the medications. Now, if you want to know the negative side effects to antihistamines, just go to drugs.com or any website that sells antihistamines, look at the side effects. It will absolutely floor you. There's going to be factors with your immune system. There's going to be factors with your neurological system, your GI. Why? There's going to be factors with your connective tissue. Because when you negate these kind of responses, there can be negative effects that happen all over the body because the mast cell exists all over the body. And so therefore what it does, by inhibiting histamine production or release, there is an issue. So I just took away from the Cleveland Clinic, and here's one of the things they talk about here. It's highlighted. Histamine blockers like H1 and H2 will mitigate the effects of histamine produced by the mast cell. Some medications will manage the effects of other mediated release for the mast cells, like montelukast, which in the leukotriene blocker and aspirin, which blocks prostaglandins. Now, if you look over to the left, there's a chart. And there's a lot of people that do take mediator blockers, mast cell stabilizers, corticosteroids, emergency medications like adrenaline, and also 2 adrenal-based interventions called epinephrine, because your body produces its own corticosteroids, but if it's reduced on its corticosteroids, you're going to have more response to this. Now, what I want you guys to understand is this, is they've created a whole host of medications trying to, once again, inhibit the receptors for histamine, so it's not released and things like that. Because you gotta remember, if all of a sudden you put an agent on that receptor, then even a foreign protein that comes and activates that key, that lock, guess what happens from the key, isn't gonna happen. And they do see a reduction of production of histamine. Now, once again, is there a bunch of negative side effects that do come from the effects of those medications? There are. Go research them, take a look at them. They're all something that you should take a look at. But there's other ways to do these things. But let's take a look a little bit more at some of the medications that they do give people, okay? Once again, when there's mast cell activation, how is it treated? You can see number 1, just with antihistamines. But number 2, they have type 2 receptors, antihistamines that reduce stomach acid. People do not realize that there's cells within the stomach that produce histamine for digestion. Remember that. Okay, these can treat nausea and stomach pain, and they can alleviate some certain symptoms. But look at aspirin to change the flushing. They have other modifiers, other medications, epinephrine shots, stabilizers, and corticosteroids. They're all trying to respond to that adaptive thing. But once again, I always tell people that there are some very negative side effects. You can read about those. Once again, talk to your doctor about them when they decide to try to put you on this related to all the activation. So let's do this. Let's step back and see what we can do from a little different perspective. Because without the different perspective, you're just constantly responding with antihistamines and other medications trying to calm the immune response down. But I think that's a really big disease management process. I can honestly tell you, I think there's one unifying common ground that we want with everybody that we care about. We want them to be in good health. So when it comes to, just in general, see, I can find common ground with anybody. I don't care what your religious beliefs are, I don't care what your political beliefs are. I can honestly tell you that, for example, if I had a staff member that had a family member sick, there's one thing that we want commonly. We want them to be in good health, not suffering, not be in the hospital, not have major illnesses that way. And we can have different political and religious beliefs, but there's one thing universal, is if somebody has somebody that they care about sick, we can all be empathetic and put ourselves in their shoes, but also sympathetic and feel the same pain that they do, because watch this. If you're watching right now, do me a favor. Just you don't have to raise your hand, okay? Especially if you're driving. But do you have somebody that you know that you very care about dearly that is having some health issues right now? Yeah, and see, everybody does. And they can understand what they're going through, and that's empathy. But then what happens is we can all feel sympathy for that person due to the fact the amount of suffering that causes them and all the people that care about them around them. If I have a staff member that has a family member suffering, we feel very bad for them. And once again, because we know that it affects them even in their job. And that's understandable, because somebody that they dearly care about, that could be on their mind that they could lose them. So understand, I believe that there's other ways that we can do these things. So let's take a look at some of the steps I believe that we need to do. Okay, so steps to improve this in a different perspective. Number 1, test for the triggers. Okay, we talked about this intensely. People that have mast cell activation usually have a lot of overgrowths, usually have some immune trigger like some bacterial, viral, or parasitic response that just causes a constant histamine response. So that's why I like to see certain labs done from a viral panel, from a stool test, from immune triggers that can just consistently do it on a regular basis. Usually if you get a cold, it comes from a foreign virus, you can have a little sniffles, have the whole response, but it's going to cycle through. If it's consistently there on a regular basis, those immune triggers are living within your system and your body can't get rid of them. So test for them. Also, I saw in some of the research, it talked about IgE responses, and that's what actually got me to be a doctor in the first place. And then second of all, it talked about hypersensitivities. See, IgE is type 1 hypersensitivity allergic reactions, but there's type 2, 3, and 4, which equates the other antibodies. And that's why a lot of people don't realize that when you test other antibodies to certain responses to food and other things, including bacteria and viruses, you can start to avoid or actually go after those things that are now going to trigger those things on a regular basis that are in your body on a consistent basis. Number 2, let's take a look. Here we go. You can see, oh, sorry, my fault there. Test to take vitamin D. Number 1, you should always know where your vitamin D levels are. If you are suffering from any kind of mast cell activation syndrome, go and get your vitamin D tested. You want to be between the levels of 70 and 90. You see, also be in the sun for about a half an hour. Don't get burnt. Make sure that you take care of your skin properly. I can honestly tell you, I'm from the ethnic heritage to where I have to protect my skin very well, because otherwise the sun, I will burn it and peel. So I take care of it on a regular basis. So therefore, when I do go in the sun for a half an hour, I'm well protected with very non-toxic, great things like we talked about before. We want to make sure that our sunscreens have the best ingredients in them. But then therefore, I also make sure to take a vitamin D, and I keep my levels around 80 for my body and stuff, and it works out fantastic. So therefore, test first. That's why a lot of people are saying, well, doc, we see a lot of things to where people should take 10,000 IUs a day. Well, 10,000 IUs a day may be great for somebody and could be on a level of toxicity to others. And what they'll do, they'll talk about the exceptions, not the rule. You'll have medical doctors going, you don't want to listen to that advice because here's a person that got kidney stones and toxic from it. Yeah, because they really should have been tested first. Never take something without being tested first, because vitamin D especially, because we don't want to see it become at a toxic level. So next, let's take a look. Start Albizia. I have a little story for you guys on this one. All right, a lot of people don't even know what that is. I can honestly tell you, with what we have done for a long period of time, this is by far the most sold thing I ever did in practice and in the history of Wellness Way. Albizia is by far the most sold thing. Now, why? I'm going to tell you a little story. When I was going through all my immunology classes back in undergraduate and during graduate school and postgraduate, but this even happened 30 years ago, I noticed that whatever illness it was, there was some immune component. Let me say it again. Whatever illness is out there, there's always some immune component that is one of the primary things that's going on. And that's why I think that the natural world has to look at this in a very different perspective, because I only think there's two conditions out there that would really have to be addressed. There has to be some immunological response and some neurological response. Why? Because everything else is a secondary response. No, doc, my cortisol is really high. Okay, how did your cortisol get elevated? Well, my adrenals put them out, and it's a stress gland. Okay, so what was the stressor? There had to be something immunological or neurological. Okay, so everything, and that's why people say, doc, you became well known for the things you did with hormones. Yeah, because I wasn't addressing direct hormones. I was addressing all the things that affect the hormones. And there's gonna be some immunological or some neurological response. But then I noticed this. I noticed that people have very bad behaviors. So therefore they would eat something they shouldn't, and then there would be a response, including histamine. Now, to the extent of, could it be listed as Mast Cell Activation Syndrome? Well, they usually have a little high response, but yeah, there's a histamine response, there's other neurological responses, there's other hormonal responses. And so therefore, I'm like, man, I have to counteract it, but I don't want people to be taking antihistamines all the time. So I wanted to find something that could counteract their bad behavior. And of course, I found Albizia, okay? As you can see here, supports healthy response to environmental stresses, supports normal immune responses, decreases histamine responses for allergies. And you can find the research where it talks about it. Albizia suppresses histamine signaling by inhibiting the histamine H1 receptor and histidine decarboxylase gene transcription. So therefore, it's conversion from histidine to histamine. Long story short, that's just biochemistry behind it. But once again, and the cool thing about it is when you look at the negative side effects of Albizia, very little to none. That's the great part. Doc, I got a call one time, so I'm gonna act dramatically like the patient that called up and stuff like that. Doc, oh my goodness, my kid got into the bottle of Albizia and drank the whole thing. What should we do? Should we go to the hospital and pump up their stomach? I'm like, no, your child just made very expensive urine. Do you follow me in that? They made very expensive urine because the only thing they're gonna do is drink the whole bottle, and that's just like eating too much broccoli. And so therefore, guess what happened? Now it's gonna make the example very generalized. But the idea was this, and no joke, the child just had, excessive pee for about a day just trying to get all the bottle they drank out of there. But what happens is, could you imagine if you actually chewed on a whole bottle of antihistamines? What could possibly happen? But the idea was this, it actually inhibits the things that are going on. And kind of a detail, and I won't read the whole thing, but just kind of show you a little bit. Histamine plays a major role in allergic diseases, and its actions is mediated mainly by the H1 receptor. We have demonstrated that histamine signaling related to H1R and histidine decarboxylase genes are allergic diseases, sensitive genes, and expression levels affect sensitivity allergic reactions. Therefore, the compounds of Albizia, once again, had a major impact on that and negating the response. So therefore, there was a great response. So if you look at what I did in practice, the reason why it's so sold still to Wellness Way today is because of all the sassy behavior. Really, honestly, because I always tell people, if you're going to eat bad, I want you to counteract this response, and I don't want you to take Albizia because that costs money and stuff. And so I used to use humor and things like that in practice a lot. And I'm going to say this, and it offends some people when I say this, but it's okay. I would say, hey, keep eating bad. You're making me rich. Because I can calm that response down, but it's actually just reacting to what you're doing on a regular basis. And I'd rather have you have the good habits and not take Albesia or anything else, but I understand food's very emotional, so we get that. Next, let's take a look. This is well documented too. Start nettle. Stinging nettle has a wonderful response to it that way. Once again, there's the inflammatory response, histamine response to allergies, maintains good joints, maintains healthy cardiovascular issues. Now if you look, nettle affects key receptors and enzymes associated with allergic rhinitis. And that's when you see Mast Cell Activation Center, there is a significant amount of allergies that are equated to it that way. Now there's some other wonderful things that you can do, and I want to show you this. Here we go. Vitamin C, once again, trying to regulate some of the immune system. And I like whole food. I don't like to see people use ascorbic acid too much. I want to see a whole food complex. But infrared saunas. Infrared saunas have been known to have a very good response on histamine production. And one thing I also want you guys to see is this. Check progesterone levels. A lot of people do not realize this. Progesterone has a very good effect on regulating the immune system. That's why if you ever notice, if you have a woman that has an autoimmune condition where the immune system is consistently triggered and can be degenerative to their body, women feel great during pregnancy that have autoimmune disorders because progesterone skyrockets at a high level. And it needs to. See, progesterone actually kind of puts some of the immune cells to sleep. And during pregnancy, you want that to happen. Do you know why? Because that baby is foreign to the mother's body. The immune system will go after it. It sees it as a foreign entity. So therefore, progesterone actually puts a lot of the immune system to kind of sleep. And that's why you'll notice sometimes women will go through certain immune symptoms because, once again, they actually are pregnant, immune system is calmed down some, so therefore, guess what? You're going to see the baby be protected. Now what happens in autoimmune diseases, the immune system is having such a high response that all of a sudden the progesterone goes, hey, calm down. And that's why women feel so good during pregnancy when it comes to that. So let's look at this list again. Test for your triggers. Test to make sure your vitamin D levels are good. Start some Albesia and nettle. Make sure you have good whole foods that have vitamin C or take a whole food vitamin C supplement. Infrared saunas. Make sure the hormone levels are decent, especially progesterone, because it's going to have a wonderful effect on your histamine response. So therefore, just by saying you have Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, I totally agree. I believe that you are having an elevated response. But it's not a mistake. It's not. Even to the point where, once again, you say, dead doc, something severe can happen. That means you have something severe in your body that's causing it to respond that way. It's not a mistake. Your body's trying to adapt to everything that's going on. Now, that being said, we're going to turn it back over to Dr. Destiny, Dr. Lucas, and Aaron to go over all of our giveaways today.
Good morning. That was exciting and fun. Everybody loves mast cell? Or at least learning about it. At least learning about it. This was a hot topic.
Very.
All right. So Destiny, what was happening?
Yeah, so we had a lot of interaction on Facebook. It was great hearing some of your guys' stories. So let's just get into our winners. So today we had Toby Johnson, Darcy Elbritt O'Farrell, Melissa Malura McDaniel, Colette Brooks saying good morning from Montana. Thanks for being here. Casey Tiller, Kelsey Glover, thanks for asking all of your questions. Barb Molinari, thanks for sharing your story, Barb. And Teresa Taylor Homebaker.
All right. And ADP is always hopping, so I'm so excited. And we've got friends from all over the platforms here. So Mary N. Charlotte Olson, welcome. It's nice to meet you. Lacey, 84. Kim Zabel. Katie Alana Edwards. And Ruth Menke. We're so excited to have you. And Dr. Lucas, you were just everywhere.
Oh yeah, I needed to jump over to ADP and Facebook both to help out there. It's going crazy. Good work, guys.
Yeah, great interaction. So thank you guys so much. I'm excited to hear about this last 10% and see you all next week.
All right, so what we're gonna do now is the only platform that will be allowed to be on is our ADP. So if you're on there, go to wellnessway.com, go to shows, ADP, it'll still be live, once again, because of the things that we talk about. So Facebook, I'm gonna be heading off. TikTok, Instagram, all you guys, LinkedIn. No, we still keep Twitter because Twitter actually is great. But anyways, so therefore, otherwise I get kicked off platforms all the time. So go over to the ADP at thewellnessway.com, watch the show. We're gonna do our last 10%. So, all right, guys, let's switch over to our last 10%. So that being said, guys, remember, go to our TWW Plus. You can use the word disagree or you can use the word scratch. for a thing, and it gives you 3 months free to see all the behind the scenes stuff with all the exclusive stuff. And it's kind of funny, our memberships grow every single week. It's been fantastic. Our team has done such a wonderful job. So therefore, as you guys know, as I tell you guys, always stay healthy, stay free, and we will see you next week. And one thing, Erin, what's our topic for next week?
Next week we are talking about
Food.
Next week, we are talking about foods and aging. Because once again, you could turn 50, you could turn 60, and you can still keep that beauty, both men and women. Well, we're gonna say, men, you keep your being handsome. Women, you can keep your beauty with certain foods that you want to eat and also avoid. So we'll see you guys all next week. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. Great. Each week on A Different Perspective, we bring you the most cutting edge information on health you won't find anywhere else. For more information on this topic, please visit our website. A Different Perspective offers life-changing information and resources to share and explore. A Different Perspective is leading a health revolution.